Welcome to Assembly Calendar. I'm Mike Friesen, and with us for our program today, Assemblyman Al Graf. Al Graf represents the 5th Assembly District in New York State. That includes parts of Suffolk County. We thank all you folks on the eastern end of Long Island for joining us for our program today. Assemblyman, it is nice to see you.
Oh, thanks for having me.
We've got a lot of issues to get caught up on here. It's an amazing 2015 legislative session that we find ourselves in the midst of here in Albany. It got off to kind of a pretty interesting start, but I would say the dust is starting to settle, and we're starting to talk about some pretty substantial issues.
Well, the governor here is he's gone off the track here, and basically I question his sanity sometimes in some of his programs that he's putting forth. A good example is education. Now he's mad because the teachers didn't back him in the last election, so he's basically his political payback to the teachers. But the problem is he's hitting the kids. All right, refuses to release the school runs. So what's happening is the schools now, they have to write their budgets. So they don't know what programs they can keep, what programs they can cut, and the governor's just being petty. The other thing, he attached the DREAM Act to TAP funding. So what's the governor, if the legislature does not pass the DREAM Act, nobody gets TAP. Not one person out there will get TAP. As far as grading the teachers 50% on student grades. For some reason, this governor likes to have his own outcomes, and he projects what his outcomes should be. And if they don't match, then he has a fit. But if you look at what he's trying to do right now, I mean, we still have the Common Core curriculum. We're trying to fight our way through that. The Common Core curriculum, you're teaching to the test. Okay, it's a one-size-fits-none program. And that's what he's going to try to grade teachers on. So for example, if you have a student that is developmentally in 3rd grade, but chronologically in 5th grade, they're testing him on a 5th grade level, or her on a 5th grade level. And their answer is, we'll give him another hour to take the test. You can give him a month to take the test. You can give her a month to take the test. They're not developmentally there. So you also have to look at English as a second language. You have to look at, if you really look at the Common Core curriculum, it's based on forcing parents, okay, to be involved in their children's education at home. The problem is the curriculum that they're doing right now, there's colleges that are actually giving courses for parents to learn how to help their children with their 3rd grade math homework. Okay, so I mean, New York State, once New York State got involved in education, they screwed it all up. I mean, when you and I went to school, we had wood shops, we had automotive shops, electrical shops, metal shops. We had an LPN program in BOCES and stuff. You had a choice between a Regents diploma and a general diploma, a career track, and an education track. They're all different types of intelligence. Some people are more mechanically inclined. Some people, college isn't for everyone. They look at this like all of our children should be, bioengineers or nuclear physicists. That's not a reality. Some kids are more comfortable working with their hands. And there's nothing wrong with being a plumber. There's nothing wrong with being an electrician. Have you paid one lately? So, I mean, New York State they're knee deep in education, okay? But they're screwing it all up. They have no idea. They have no place being in there. They don't allow teachers to teach. They're not taking into consideration. Look, if this is relying on parents, what happens with that single parent that is working 3 jobs to keep the roof over their head, the lights on, food in their child's stomachs, clothes on their backs, right? Now you expect them to sit down and do 4 hours. They may not even have a high school diploma. 4 hours of homework with their child that they don't understand. It frustrates the parents, it frustrates the children, and no actual learning is going on. So I think that we really have to take a step back. We really have to reevaluate. We have to get the government and the governor out of the classrooms because they're making a mess of things.
Let me take you back to a couple of the things you said earlier on about what the governor is doing, particularly in his negotiations with the legislature this year on issues having to do with education. For one, the tying of the DREAM Act to the TAP Awards. Now, the DREAM Act, the legislature's tried to pass the last few years. It hasn't happened. It has not become the law of New York State. It looks as if the governor is trying to use the TAP award as a bludgeon to try to beat the legislature into submission, saying, well, look, if you don't do it this year.
He's going to take TAP away from all of the people that are going to college, that were born and raised here, that are here legally. Okay? So basically, it's his way or the highway.
Yeah.
Right? And he's saying, fine, if you do not give this money to people that are here illegally, all right, then I will take it away from your children too.
And it's the same type of gambit, it seems to me, that he's using with the school aid runs, the numbers for the local school districts, as where he's saying, no, we will not release these figures until you've done XYZ else here at the state capitol. You spoke on that at a press conference recently here at the state capitol. Let's take a look at some of what you had to say, and then we'll be back to talk more today with Assemblyman Al Graf.
There are a couple issues here, and one of the big issues is the not releasing the school runs. A couple of years ago, the governor stated that he was going to be the advocate for the children and the students of this state. Well, this directly affects the students, because if the schools don't have the opportunity to try to formulate their budget, what programs are they going to be cutting? Are they going to be cutting their arts program? Are they going to be cutting their music program? And he just puts our kids at a disadvantage while the schools are trying to prepare their budget. The other thing, too, is the governor's he's actually doubling down on the tests. Now, last year he put in a bill that would put a two-year moratorium on using the tests to grade the teachers and the students. Then when he was on the campaign trail, he said that it was so bad we need a 5-year moratorium. Then this year, after giving us a message of necessity, telling us how important it was to push this forward, he goes and vetoes his own bill. Now understand something, the Common Core, they're going to be grading teachers on the Common Core testing of these students and other tests, whatever the governor wants to try to put in there. But how do you grade a gym teacher? How do you grade a music teacher? How do you grade an art teacher? How do you grade a child or a teacher that's teaching children with learning disabilities? How about the wave of new immigrant children that didn't go to school in their home countries, and now they're going to school in a lot of our communities now? You're going to grade the teachers on them.
You make a great point about the school aid figures, because here we are taping this program at the beginning of the month of March. The school districts need to have their budgets out to the voters for them to understand and to take in, for them to vote on them in the month of May. And they don't know yet even an inkling of what they might be expecting in financial aid from Albany.
Look, they don't know what to do right now. But if you look at this governor, I mean, some of the things that he's doing this year, and, we've talked about education here. Let's take a look at what he's trying to do in the grand juries, right? He's trying to rewrite law, right? He wants input into the grand jury. He wants to be able to have the outcome, but not for everybody, just for police officers, okay? Now, what I tried to explain in the hearing, that in the 12th century, we've got that's where the grand jury came to be. And it was King Henry II. And what he used it for was actually to punish his enemies. He would throw them in jail. He set up 12 jurors, right? And if they didn't give him the decision they wanted, they got punished, okay? And he was able to throw his enemies in jail, and he was able to take their property. Then what happened is the Magna Carta came in place to lessen the power of the monarchy. So what that did is took the king out, right? And then it made it 12 citizens. And then it came to colonial America, and it started evolving to be a thing that protects people from an aggressive and oppressive government. Now, they had judges in there, but the judges were either elected or they were appointed. So again, too much politics, too much the king had too much say in what was going on in the grand juries. So now we finally have it where it's the citizens, they get to ask the questions, it's an investigation. So what's happening is the governor decided that because people sat there and yelled and screamed about police cases in general, that he's going to play politics. and he's going to set cops up differently, right, than the rest of the people that may be in front of a grand jury. And what happens now is if the governor doesn't like the outcome of the case in a grand jury, he has a special monitor that he sets up. We have no qualifications for this person. It's appointed merely by the governor. And the governor wants the DA to turn over grand jury transcripts and evidence to the special monitor. Well, first off, it's illegal. It's a secret proceeding. And the reason it's secret is if you have a neighborhood where people come out and actually testify on behalf of the cop because they know it's secret, all right, then they know they're protected and they can come in and tell the truth. Right. That's a good system. This way here, what's going to happen, their names are going to be released and everything else, the grand jury transcripts, they're going to leak out there, right? And what this is meant to do is prevent witness tampering. So now if they go back in a neighborhood and the neighborhood's charged about this incident, it's a big political thing, they're going to be knocking on their door, harassing that person, and that person's not going to testify. And then it's not a fair proceeding. But what this governor wants to do is he wants it over the centuries. The grand jury process has evolved. So now, pertaining to cops and cops only, right, he wants to take our grand jury system and put it back into the 12th century. He wants to take on the role of King Henry II. He wants to be the new monarch or the new king that can influence the grand jury proceeding. This is very dangerous, okay? I mean, the governor's overstepped his bounds here. He's gone too far. So, I mean, you know, this is something that we really have to step back and tell him no.
It sounds as if he's making a political reaction to the political uproar that ensued after what happened in Ferguson and Staten Island. It all just sounds very political for a system that has been, for the most part, seen as one of the great parts of the American legal system.
Look, I didn't agree with the O.J. Simpson, verdict. Most people didn't. But you know what? Everybody had to live with it because that's the system that was in place. You know, this governor, the other thing, it's a knee-jerk reaction, okay? So he wants to get out front. Look at me, look what I'm doing. If you look at it, one of the things he's putting now is that you have youthful offender status if you're under 19. So if you're 18 and under, you can get convicted and have youthful offender status. And if you do that, the record's sealed, all right? But now he wants to bring it up to 20 years old. So it'll be 19 and 20-year-olds. And it includes violent felonies. Let's give you an example of a violent felony.
I've got less than a minute.
Violent felony is rape in the first degree. That's having sexual relations with a child under 10 years old. So if I have a 20-year-old rapes a 3-year-old, okay, then he would be eligible to have that record sealed. I don't think anybody would agree with that. This governor I don't know if he's lost his mind or what he's doing, but he's got to step back and look at the legislation that he's writing, stop this knee-jerk reaction nonsense.
I think sometimes maybe after governors get reelected, they feel themselves emboldened. Would you maybe agree with that?
Well, Andy wasn't elected king, he was elected governor, and he better figure it out.
It's going to be an interesting showdown this year in Albany between this governor and this legislature. Al Graf, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you very much.
It is our pleasure. Thank you, folks, too, for spending your time with us, and we'll hope to see you all soon for our next edition of Assembly Calendar.